Yeah, g'day everyone, and welcome back to the TryPod Live with Winnie and Clarkey. Live now all over social media here for our Round 20 NRL preview, but also a recap of Origin last night, Winnie, which was just a crazy game, crazy first half, mate. How are you, and how'd you see the Origin?
Mate, that Origin, first of all, what a spectacle. We got the game we deserve. Utterly enthralling. I got to give a big shout out to you. We've previewed 6 Origins together. You picked the winner 6 out of 6. If people don't understand how good that is, the favourite has only won 2 of the last 6 Origins. Clarkey cops a lot for, he's always going to pick Titans, always going to pick Queensland. Well, New South Wales has won 3 out of the last 6 matches, and Clarkey picked them all. So did I. Not bad for a couple of Queenslanders. You did lose your same gamer, although Clarkey, really, your same gamer was defeated. I wouldn't call it a loss, but your same gamer was defeated. Myself, I'm a bit defeated because, geez, I came that close to, legendary, kind of tipping immortality with that 200-1 Moses tip that I honestly, in my heart of hearts, thought was about to salute. I watched England lose in the Euros the other morning. This was 10 times worse. Although my best bet won at least, and your favourite single play for the game also got up.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Because you went either side 1 to 11 rather, which I liked as well. But I went Blues plus 1.5 because I was like, look, if there is a chance one side wins by more than double digits, I think it is the Blues, so I'll go them instead. And in the end, we were both right. We got in that 1 to 11 range for you, but it was on 10. Like it was right on that line where I was like, if it could happen, it's going to be the Blues. So yeah, I was really happy to get Blues plus 1.5 up there. But Clarkey's collect same game multi was a disaster on this one, mate. Nothing like Origin 2 where we hit it twice the odds. If you guys aren't aware, I did any 2 of the 4 starting back rowers to score. Crichton goes off for a HIA in the first 2 minutes. Jeremiah Nanai gets pushed back to the bench, and that leaves me with Capewell and Liam Martin, who were the 2 least likely back rowers to score. So, as you said, it didn't lose. It was just defeated. To borrow a phrase there from the great Billy Slater. Mate, what a game there. Let's jump into it. I'll give you my recap of it real quick, then I'll get yours. 14-4, of course, guys. I thought the longer this one went and the longer the arm wrestle went on, it made me lean more and more to Queensland. I was like, dude, this is one of those games where the Maroons are just going to find a way to win in the final 10 minutes and no one's going to be surprised. But honestly, the biggest credit for me has to go to both the Blues halves. Mitchell Moses, with that incredible solo try, beats 2 in the line, then just leaves Walsh for dead and scores a crucial try under the post. And Jerome Luai, who broke the game open. You know, if he doesn't make that break, Bradman Best doesn't score that incredible try there. And in a contest where everything was so even, the only thing that separated them at halftime was an ill-disciplined move by Spencer Laniu. We had 34 players just going at each other, maximum intensity. It was nothing could separate these sides. And when the moment called, I thought the difference between the 2 sides was the New South Wales halves. That was it. Dearden tried his best. He had a few nice moments. Cherry Evans was good defensively. But the Blues halves, when they had their opportunity to make a big moment, they executed and they nailed both of their moments there. That was honestly, Winnie, the only difference I had in the game. Both sides gave everything, but the Blues halves, they were the difference. How do you see it, though?
Man, I've got heaps of notes here, so I'll try and zoom through, but I've got a lot to say because it's an all-time game. Yes, we will actually make you guys wait. Jake asked in the comments. I've got some best bets for round 20, but it's just logical that we put a bow on the Origin Game 3 and the series. We'd love to see your comments on it all come through as well. We can bring them in. And Clarkey, you kind of jump in where you feel you need to on some of my points too, because I've got a fair few. But again, yeah, my best bet, either team 1 to 11. It couldn't have been closer for 70 minutes. And then at the end, you'd rather have been on Clarkey's plus 1.5 when New South Wales pretty much had it sewn up. And Queensland goes short and Stephen Crichton's streaking away and it's 14-4 and you're thinking the damn wall could have broken here and you could get that late try and kind of get a 13-plus victory where Blues backers would say it was deserved because the Blues dominated the game in terms of the ball and the meters and the territory. However, as you said, the fact that the Blues couldn't cash in for so long and then the Maroons had withstood it and Ponga comes on, it was set up for Queensland to, snatch it as they famously have many times over the years. But what about the opening of this game? Like, it was an incredible intensity. someone commented best half of footy they've ever seen, and it was 2-0, you know. It was just unbelievable intensity. What stands out to me is New South Wales, well, they got a chance to win the arm wrestle early because they got the first couple of penalties, and New South Wales gets a penalty on their own 40 or on their own 30, kicks it to halfway, and it's about 10 minutes in, and I'm going, all right, Blues' first chance to really get into their attack and really threaten the Queensland line. Not so fast. The next 4 hit-ups get absolutely jammed, and New South Wales doesn't move the ball past the Queensland 40 for 4 straight tackles between the halfway and the 40. It's just absolute car crash after car crash, collision after collision, and that was a signifier of the whole game. Both sides talked about short dropouts being crucial. Both teams, when they were under the pump, were able to come up with some big plays, especially New South Wales, and they talked about how they may have worked on that. Queensland was limited in attack, limited in opportunities. Walsh was a little bit hobbled throughout the game. I think that was part of that. We can circle back to that one. But I suppose New South Wales definitely had more opportunities. So I would say one of the worst bad beats you'll get in that game would have been if you were on the Blues plus half a point first half, which is sometimes a way I like to play an underdog if I like a slight underdog, because the Blues had all the chances first half, couldn't quite cross, didn't take a 2 on a couple of occasions, and then Lenu, shoulder charges DCE completely needlessly on the final play of the half, and it's Queensland that goes in front. Where I'll throw back to you, Clarkey, I suppose the controversy, of course, the team that loses, people always complain about the ref. Well, one of the most controversial moments was probably where both sides were reduced to 12. We get the Murray sin bin, where we've never seen it before, a player sin bin from the bench. No punches were thrown. So I thought, it's an early melee. There's no way either team will be disadvantaged out of this. Like, they'll either just make it final warning or they'll send one from each team. So they picked Murray because they saw him run a fair way. I get it that Queenslanders are blowing up. He shouldn't have ran from his bench, but it's like, well, it all spilled over right in front of the Queensland bench. So the Queensland had like 10 bench members all involved. I can understand the Blues players wanting to protect their teammate. I mean, people saying, Murray should have been sent off. Where's your precedent? We've never seen anything like that. We've all just complained for 3 weeks straight about how an Origin was ruined by a send-off. Surely not even Queenslanders are a fair dinkum when they say that, the game should have been decided there and then, which a send-off essentially is. So I think calling for a send-off is ridiculous. I think if you're a Queenslander, let's be honest, Queensland had to beat New South Wales in one game this series with both teams having the same number of players. And it was at Suncorp, and Queensland couldn't do it. So the only harsh thing about that moment was probably it was a Blues error, but it was overturned it was a Queensland error overturned. No, I'll say it again. It was a Blues error, and it got overturned into a penalty against the Maroons. So you could say that that was a bit harsh against Queensland. What was your take on that whole scenario?
Yeah, I thought as far as controversy goes with the referee, I don't buy into that, even though I am a Queenslander. For me, I am comfortable the Blues were the better side for the vast majority of this series. Really, outside of the 30 minutes after Suaalii was sent off, the Blues have virtually won this whole series from that point, you could say. I'm not sure if they actually won the second half rather of the first game, but certainly they were still coming at the Maroons and trying plenty with 12 men there. So I don't subscribe to any theories that there was a referees are to blame here for this one. On the Cameron Murray incident specifically, I believe if he left his bench onto the field, then yes, it would have been a send-off. But because it had already spilled over the sideline to the benches at that stage, it's kind of like, it's in that territory now. The only person I can see why they said, Hamoli, go into the sheds, because that's, you're not even playing and you've got involved, even though it's such a minor extent. But no, man, I don't subscribe to that theory at all. I thought the Blues were the better side. And as much as it sucks to say as a proud Queenslander, they literally really did deserve to win this series.
And it's easy to say afterwards. I'm really not trying to hindsight it. I mean, we both picked the Blues, and you don't pick New South Wales to win this game in Queensland unless you think they are the stronger side. And I go back to seeing New South Wales as a 2.5 point underdog in game one. And I don't know if I was wrong, because as I said right before the series, Queensland are being priced similar to those dynasty teams because they're the only Queensland teams that were ever favourites in Sydney. And I didn't think this year's Queensland team, with the players that were out, was a dynasty team. Now, on who was out, I feel like it was a fair fight. Queenslanders are going to say, well, we didn't have Munster, Tino, Flegler, Gilbert, and Blues fans will say we didn't have Nathan Cleary, Latrell Turbo. Both teams had enough to win with. Critter versus Hammer was electrifying all night long, and both, had their moments. Again, we get a sideline penalty shot where the Blues had a lot of chances. I didn't think they should take the shot at goal there early in the second half because it's not a guaranteed 2, and you want to back yourself to score eventually. But credit to Lomax, drills a sideline conversion 2-2, but then Queensland takes the 2. It was questioned in the press conference. You have to take the 2 there. There's been no tries in the game, and there's 60 minutes in, and you can take a lead. Of course, Queensland should have gone up 4-2, which they did. As I said, I thought Queensland really had a big chance to win when KP comes on, and the Blues had thrown the kitchen sink at Queensland. It had been withstood. But to be fair, the Blues stood firm when they needed to defend as well. There wasn't really enough opportunity for me to say how well the Ponga plan worked. He kind of came on and played like a roaming 13, but Queensland only got a couple of sets on the Blues line. Again, Walsh was not himself, so you wonder if Billy would have just considered a straight swap, Ponga out there and not Walsh, just because Walsh had been beat up. And Billy addressed that, and this is maybe a complaint of Queenslanders, that there were a lot of late hits on Walsh. I don't subscribe to that one either. I saw once or twice Walsh engage the line and got a bit of a push late, but you're not going to give a penalty and a decider for a push. I didn't see any blatant cheap shot like hits on kickers or playmakers that were missed by the refs. A couple of times they were dished out. I thought there were penalties. If you're a Queenslander and you're angry about unnecessary hits on Walsh, pretty sure he took like the 3rd or 4th hit up of the game. So, that's a plan. That's a decision you're making, putting Walsh in harm's way. And it's worrying for Queensland, for Brisbane fans as well, which we'll get to when we preview the all-important Broncos game. Speaking of Billy Slater, I have to say, he just was not his cool, calm self this year. I don't know if that's just what coaching does to you, that he became a bit more prickly, but I had a suspicion deep down that Billy just wasn't as confident. He knew that the team he had didn't quite match up against New South Wales, and maybe without that confidence, he didn't enjoy himself as much this series. There wasn't much to enjoy in game 2, but I don't know if I'm alone there, just kind of reading Billy's vibe and body language. However, the opportunity was still there to be won. Like, you could see the intensity in both coaches' boxes with 20 to go. And it was won ultimately by an incredible try to Bradman Best. Not that he did all the work on his own, but like, what a beast he is. Correct decision to come in. But how many players in the world built like Bradman Best with his strength and can move like that? Like, Best is in support and when given any space or wind up, is an incredible athlete. It is a superstar, and neither of his club teammates in Gagai or Ponga could stop him. You mentioned Moses' try seals it. So again, this might be my chance to address, my devastation for my 200-1 tip, which again, if you missed it, was Moses man of the series prior to the series. So prior to game 1, when we knew Moses was not even selected, but I gave the reasoning of how it could all play out. I thought it did play out. Before I wrap further thoughts on the game, mate, give me your take on the Wally Lewis medal decision.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Because I had Moses as my 3 points in game 2 and Edwards as my 2 points. And then we knew Edwards was the official man of the match in this game, and Mitchell Moses was seemingly a live chance to get the 2 points. Now, I don't know how Angus Crichton actually did win it, because what I'm thinking is in game 2, most judges must have given him the 2 points instead of Edwards. And he must have got all the 2 points again tonight from last night for all the judges. So I'm really struggling to see how Crichton won that based off a 3-2-1 scoring system. If you want to ask me who was one of the best players throughout the series, then I will absolutely tell you it was Angus Crichton. He was great in game 1, fantastic in game 2. I thought that was his best game, and strong again last night. But off the 3-2-1 system, I did have Mitchell Moses winning. People were quick to discount me when I put him as my MVP in this game. And I just point out to people that just because Bradman Best had scored at that point, we've seen Maroon's miraculous comebacks in the past. The game was not over for the Blues. But once Mitchell Moses, 3 minutes later, goes bang, 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 straight under the post and scores, beating 3 defenders like it was nothing. From that point, that's when I knew, okay, unfortunately, we're not winning this game. The Blues have won it here. So because he was able to produce that big moment there, Winnie, seal the game, he had 4 try assists in game 2. For context, no New South Wales Blues half has produced 4 try assists across an entire series since 2018, and he did it in 1 game. So I did have him as my Wally Lewis medal, but I also respect that Crichton had a great series also.
Yeah, look, I could actually probably say I agree with the people who questioned you calling Moses the MVP of the game last night. Like, fair enough. I reckon there's 4 or 5 who you could have said had a better game than Moses. I mean, Dylan Edwards, unreal. I was very worried Dylan Edwards could pinch the medal, who I also said have a saver on him at $67. And Moses got man of the match. Shout out to Kyle Gordon in our group, tipped him at half time and showed the odds were $18 about Edwards. Whale of a game for sure. And Edwards was really good in game 2. The system, the way it's set up, it shouldn't matter who played in game 1 because the Blues lost by 28 points. So I don't know how, unless Crichton polled votes in game 1, which I'd be stunned from. I think, as you said, Crichton must have been considered second on ground by everyone in game 2. I mean, maybe out of 3 judges, maybe one of them thought he was man of the match for game 2, right? But Moses still outvoted that. But Moses was immaculate in game 2. The kicking game, you cannot overstate. Like, this is an absolute arm wrestle. And the amount of times that Moses can hang those kicks 50 meters and have the backs moving backwards when they're taking it inside their 10 and being met consistently inside the 20, inside the 30, as opposed to Queensland more often than not couldn't get the Blues in their red zone. And the Blues had better starting position. It's a critical position. People should understand, like, it is harder to play halfback than second row. It is more influential, let me say it that way. You clinch the series with a try. I have a sick feeling in my stomach, and I hope this isn't the case, but I have a sick feeling in my stomach that they may have done a roundup and tallied the votes before then. Like, it happens a lot in sporting events. Like, we need to, get everyone's votes in. We need to figure it out. We need to bloody engrave this or whatever. We tend to go, if Queensland wins, who's your vote? If Blues win, who's your vote? Like, the logistics sometimes is that they don't have the time, and I'd hate to think that could happen, but it has. We've seen it happen before in major sporting events. We're like, how could that be possible? And I did think Moses' try could clinch it, even though others last night were outstanding for New South Wales, no doubt. And Best would have been one of them. Payne Haas, great again. I don't want to knock Crichton. He was an absolute animal this series, and it's not all about stats. I hate it when people just say whoever scored a try should be man of the match. But Crichton is a wide running forward who not only didn't score a try this series, he didn't even have a line break. There's a storyline out there which is awesome. Like, it's not about knocking Crichton. It's not saying he didn't deserve it, because Angus Crichton deserved the Wally Lewis medal, but I just thought Moses was more deserving. And of course, I'm heartbroken because when you pick a 200 to 1, you're going to need some breaks. But I got to a point where I really believed we're going to get that, and it wasn't to be. And what can I say? Like, people are like, oh, you'll get the next one, but you won't get the next one with 200 to 1s. You may have to. And I very rarely tip anything this long. People know me too. Like, yes, in the pod, we've hit 100 to 1 a couple of times. If you counted every 100 to 1 I've ever shared, it really wouldn't be a long list, right? So, awesome opportunity, missed, and let us know, am I biased? Of course, you understand who I was cheering for and why I might see it that way. Maybe last thoughts overall. Did Queensland get anything wrong? Did you put that up as a poll, Clarkey? I've seen that on social media, what mistakes. Dearden had a good game in the decider. I think I said prior to the series I would pick Mam, and I am looking at a Queensland team that lacked a bit of explosivity in attack outside of game 1 after the send-off, to be fair. So Mam would have made it quite a different Queensland team in the way they attacked, but Money will be in the 6 jersey next year anyway, I suppose. Sam Walker versus DCE could be a discussion next year. And the other obvious one is, should Queensland have picked Fafita? But I suppose you'd say, oh, look, a damaging second row forward in the prime of his career isn't going to have a big impact on a series. Oh, wait, well, Angus Crichton did win Wally Lewis medal. I don't know, like, isn't it ironic that the Roosters wanted Fafita over Angus Crichton, and Crichton just won player of the series in Origin, but Billy couldn't find a space in the Queensland squad of 20 in any of the 3 games. It has to be, the question has to be asked. Back to you. What would you have changed, or what should Queensland have changed, or what did other people say when you put it out there?
Yeah, there's definitely a wide variety of opinions, and I think that's got to be expected when it's Origin. You know, it is the pinnacle of rugby league, and it is what everyone hangs their hat on and loves the most. I think one other selection kind of dilemma that we'll have to consider next year that you didn't mention there will probably be Tom Dearden for the 7, actually, because he did play well on the decider, and with Chad Townsend leaving the Cowboys, he will assume that senior half role. So he could be a live chance to line up next to Karen Munster next year as well. But looking at this Maroons team and where it went wrong, I just go to the middle. You know, game 1, even when the Blues had someone in the was sent off, they were able to win the middle against the Maroons because that player was an outside back. Now, with Nicho Hynes and Jerome Luai, the halves didn't quite connect for them in that instance, so they weren't able to produce that momentum into points. Game 2, the middle was won again, and that is what was made them able to produce those points. Game 3, the Maroons made exactly 100 more tackles than the Blues. And yes, it was a great arm wrestle for 60 minutes, but if you are doing that extra work, and I hadn't seen these stats live where I had the feeling that the Maroons were going to win, eventually it's going to come back to haunt you, right? And so again, they lost the middle. Last year, what worked so well for the Maroons was they had edge forwards and back rowers that were genuine defensive workhorses that play middle roles mainly, such as a Reuben Cotter and Thomas Gilbert, right? At one stage, that is. But the other one that we need to consider is no Thomas Flegler, no Tino Fa'asu or Mala'awi. They were dominated in the middle. Now, I don't think the Maroons need to freak out too much, because if you include those 2 men into that game 3, which was a true arm wrestle, and it was the tight Origin 50-50 kind of game we expect, then the Maroons are every chance to, you know, win that middle, or at least compete a bit harder in the middle and convert some of those opportunities to points. So I actually don't think it's freak out stations at all for the Maroons. I think it's literally keep that same. We'll get Karen Munster back next year. That gives us some more points in the spine, and we'll get a stronger forward pack, which will really even out that huge deficiency this year, Winnie, where they were just dominated in the middle. And I still go back to my point, mate, where I know someone like Josh Kerr and Christian Welch aren't the best middle forwards, but sometimes it's better to have a middle forward on the bench than no middle forward. With respect to Felice Kafusi, he's still very new to the middle, despite being a veteran of the game. He played 16 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need a bit more from that in Origin. And I just feel like Christian Welch or Josh Kerr could have came in and not done an exceptional job in the middle, but at least held their own. And that could have given the Maroons a better chance. I thought they were thin in the middle, and I think that's an area that they will naturally improve at next year when they get players back. So it's not freak out stations.
Look, if you're going to throw names out there like Kerr or Welsh, I think it says it all that New South Wales had the better team this year, 100%. Deserved it. You know, desperate after 2 straight series defeats. To give some credit to Madge, when he took over the Souths, he took them to a comp. No one can ever take that away from him. Had a forgettable time at West, but coached New Zealand, won the Pacific Championship, coached the Blues, came back in both rep arenas. You know, internationals last year, back off a big defeat early in a series, and then, you know, had the last laugh. Absolutely did that in this series, and every decision was questioned, especially after the Blues lost the first game, even though we understood the send-off. I mean, Edwards in this year. Not everyone had him. I think you and I did, but absolutely the right decision. Bradman Best in this game, huge decision. You know, to give Lomax that debut, great call. There were other options they could have gone with. Lomax was the right call. Leniu was out of left field. Fantastic decision. Unless, you know, if the game finishes 4-2, then of course everyone will say, oh, that's why you don't pick Leniu, because those brain snaps cost you. But, you know, everyone's going to play the results and say Leniu was unbelievable and every run was fired out of a cannon. There were other decisions Madge made where I'm not going to say he got them all right just because the Blues won. I heard someone today, I'll actually say the Guru, I listened to the Guru, right, and his recap, and he's saying 100% the Blues next year have to start with Moses and Luai in the halves, no matter what. If they're fit, it's Moses and Luai. And I think that's insane if Nathan Cleary's fit and healthy. Like, I don't think Luai nailed that jersey down just because the Blues won. And admittedly, Luai had the try assist for the winning try. But my point would be, if Burton was there this series, would the Blues have still won? I think yes. If Coruscant was in at 9 instead of Robson, would the Blues have still won? I think they would have. So let me just say it's jury out. I'm not saying I was right, but I don't think I was wrong. jury out on someone like Connor Watson. Hats off to because he did everything asked of him. But again, I think any utility, you get the same result. Kind of same for Barney. It was funny. Poor bloke got taken off because of the sin bin by Cam Murray. They had to send someone off. Again, jury out for me. In fact, I still stand by the fact that I don't believe Gerbo ever should have been captain. And everyone made excuses why Gerbo played so minimal minutes in game 1 because the send-off in game 2 was a blowout. Well, game 3 was game on the line, series on the line, and Gerbo got 23 minutes. So again, it doesn't make sense to me that your captain's not on the field and that your captain's not one of your best players. And I've heard people saying, oh, this proves he was the absolute correct captain. No, it doesn't, just because you won. You could have nearly lost. And if you had a different player in there, maybe the Blues won more easily. Maybe it wouldn't have to come down to a try with 15 to go. So I don't know. They'll get away with that, the Blues, and nobody probably deserves it more than Gerbo. So I kind of hate to be the guy who is going to take away from, like an absolute champion of the game. But I don't think it was the perfect call. And speaking of some of the stars that are yet to come back in the team, I just mentioned Clarkey and earlier Latrell Turbo. New South Wales are thinking this future is bright, aren't they? When they look at who could possibly lose their spot in this team, they all deserve it. And you've got some, real firepower to come back in as well in 2025.
100%. And the Maroons as well, they're still a young side. A lot of their players are Jeremiah Nana, for example, is 21. Tommy Dearden's very young. Ponga, Walsh. They've got some young superstars as well that they can build around. So they will learn from this series. Whereas you said for the Blues, it's not so much about building now. It's about how do we actually pick our best 17? Like, everyone will be fighting in form next year. So it's going to be another great series. Final say, mate, because we have been going for almost half an hour on Origin. I actually do agree with you with Jake Trbojevic. Like yesterday, he had 3 runs for 19 meters. It's not like I'm sure he brings a lot of off-field stuff, but you could do that as 18th man or on the extended bench. Like Regan Campbell-Gillard is a guy that's not in the best form this year. His last game, he ran 200 plus meters. And I'm sure he would have gave you the 3 runs for 19 meters. I'm sure he would have given you more, for example, as well, right? And of course, stats aren't everything, but you can't. I just don't think you can pass that with the eyes and genuinely look someone in the eye and go, Jake Trbojevic influenced this series. I just don't think it passes the stats test, and it doesn't pass the eye test either. I believe the Blues would have won this series with or without Jake Trbojevic, and that's not to be Debbie Downer or rain on his parade. Congratulations in that he lifts the shield. But I do just want to throw that opinion out there and let you know that I agree with you there as well. All righty, mate, let's look forward to NRL action. Thank you, everyone, for being...
Final word. Why don't we give final word on Origin to Tristan? Okay. Because then he will lead us into round 20.
Let's do it.
G'day everyone, and we're through Origin for another year, and what a fantastic game it was, I think. Despite the result of being a Queenslander, which was disappointing, it was such a high quality game and captivating, and I think it put a really good show on. So, hopefully a few of you out there backed the winner. The betting on the game itself was interesting. There was money both ways for a large chunk of it. We ended up just wanting Queensland. It wasn't a huge amount in it, but Queensland were the better result from us. We actually laid a lot of the unders options, but then that was coupled by the fact that obviously same game multis in those low scoring games are hard to get. So we lost on the main parts of the game and then got a good chunk of it back on the multi. So it ended up just a chop out. So it allowed us to watch the game for once without a huge swing. And unfortunately, as I said, for Queenslanders, we couldn't quite get there in the end. But looking forward to next year, the market's already up with New South Wales $1.67 favourites. But now we've got the challenge in front of us, trying to set the markets for this weekend, because obviously always after Origin it's a challenge. It was such a physical game. There's so many players carrying injuries. One thing we weren't expecting was a Manly player that wasn't in the starting 17 to be rubbed out for this week's game via suspension. So it does make it very tricky. We're going to have to monitor team lists. Punters are going to have to do the same. Obviously, keep an eye on which clubs you think are going to be desperate for their players to play if they're on that verge of finals or otherwise. So it's just going to be something that's going to monitor team lists, see the reduction of the rosters to give yourself a guide as to who's in and who gets ruled out early. So really tricky weekend for us to set the lines, and if there's opportunities there for punters to get stuck in early if you know what you're doing. So good luck if you're having a bet over the weekend. Hope you all enjoyed Origin, and of course gamble responsibly.
Thank you. Thank you very much to Tristan for that message there. And apologies for taking you to the bank last night, right, Winnie? Wink, wink there for Tristan. Alrighty, mate. That is Tristan's final word. That is our Origin recap in the past. Now all eyes look forward to the run home for the NRL finals. We're 30 minutes in. Usually we do this in the first 5 minutes, so let's make people wait no longer. What are your best bets for round 20, my friend?
Okay, I've got 3 best bets. I'm going to begin with the West Tigers plus 10.5 at $1.83 on Sportsbet facing the Rabbitohs at Gosford. It's simple to me that the Rabbitohs could be in a down spot after losing basically a must-win against the Finns. The Tigers you're buying as low as possible after being flogged the last 3 straight weeks and their best player is out. Like, who wants to be on West? But I actually think they can make it closer. At a neutral venue, this game's in Gosford, right? And Souths, especially now losing Murray with suspension as well, I don't think necessarily will overwhelm the Tigers. To get double digits, I had to do it, though I know it'll be unpopular. Then we got a cracking game, Roosters Storm, and I lean Storm, but I'm going to play it by going Roosters team total under 24.5, $1.80 on 365, because both come off a bye, and the Storm at home are so hard to get the better of, though they are the underdog in this one. We don't know for certain which Origin players back up, but the uncertainty shouldn't hurt my best bet too much. Of course, I definitely prefer Harry Grant. His sternum's all right, and he can get out there and do some tackling. I wonder whether the Roosters will actually play all of their superstars. Someone like Crichton surely deserves a break, right? But just think the Roosters have a chance. It can be a tight game, but to score, more than 24 points in Melbourne, I understand these are the best 2 attacking teams in the comp, but when they meet each other, Melbourne will be well prepared, I believe. And then I'm going to take the Dolphins plus 6.5 first half at $1.88, Ladbrokes and Neds, against the Panthers. The Dolphins come in basically full strength. Kaufusi and the Hammer should both back up. As for Penrith, we know Yo and Edwards won't. Nathan Cleary is back, but I kind of feel like when you bet against a Cleary team, he doesn't mind playing patiently and wearing you down. The other reps for the Panthers, that's up in the air. Penrith at home is formidable, but the Dolphins are no pushover. They're a fringe top 8 side. I think it's a bit of a free swing for the Finns here, not really pressure to win, but they can give it a crack. And I feel like if the Finns are in the game early, they're in it. If they're not, I don't see the Finns fighting their way back. So I'm going first half because if the Finns are down more than 6 first half, I wouldn't want the full game line. Whereas it could go the other way. It could be close for 40 and Penrith could do what they do and push the score out late. So those are my 3 best bets. Anything jumping out to you from those?
Yeah, we're pretty on par with 2 of them. One of them I'm seeing a little bit different to you, but we'll get to it game by game for that. We'll kick it off with Friday night, 8 p.m, Raiders v Storm here at I always say here at GIO Stadium as if you guys are all in Canberra. Raiders Warriors at GIO Stadium. The line is set at -2.5 here against the Raiders. They welcome back Jamal Fogarty, Hudson Young, Sebastian Kris, and Zach Hosking. For the Warriors, Tang Tuapiki is your fullback. RTS moves to the wing. That brings Ali Leotawa into the centers. Their Origin reps are named, but Tohu Harris is out. All right, Winnie, this should be a tight one. Both sides have 7 wins each so far this year. They did meet in round 3 this year. That was in New Zealand, and the Warriors won 18 points to 10. Who do you have winning here and why?
That's right, and I was on New Zealand that day. New Zealand was 0-2, had to have it, and it was actually tighter than I expected. It is 11th versus 12th. They both need, as you said, they're both on 7. I would call the magic number of wins 13, especially for teams with poor points differential, which these sides both have, meaning both need to win 6 from the final 8 rounds. And that's even harder for New Zealand, who only play 7 times in the final 8 rounds. So I'm basically calling this a do or die. And I am looking at Canberra a bit off 4 straight defeats, but they are bolstered here with the likes that you said. Fogarty's back. That's going to give belief. But Young, Kris, Hosking, the Warriors are the harder team to predict. The trend that you play whoever the underdog is in their game. Usually the underdog wins Warriors games. Last game, the Warriors were the underdogs to the Bulldogs, and New Zealand didn't win but did cover the line. In fact, the Warriors were heartbroken in that Golden Point defeat to the Dogs. get a bye round to recover from it. Both have powerful packs and should be, pretty refreshed. So it makes it a great game. I know New Zealand's got to be able to bring it like they did in that Bulldogs game to have a chance here. I just feel it's a good spot for Canberra at home. Feels like a solid spot where they have this belief that they could close the year strong with Fogarty back at the helm. So I had a lean to Canberra. I don't think I could find any -1.5s, or I'd probably be on Canberra to give you an idea how I'm seeing it.
Just a quick housekeeping point, Winnie. The comments I can see on Instagram aren't rolling through properly. They're kind of getting cut off, which was an issue we had in the last podcast. So we might have to...
For people watching on an Instagram feed?
Yeah, like the comments from the YouTube and Facebook that we bring up the top. Yeah, they're coming through cut off or messed up. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, could you confirm as well, please, there? And I'll get into how I'm seeing this game, Winnie. I like the Warriors here, actually, and I think the conditions of Canberra is something they're specialists at, just because it is very similar to New Zealand, usually that cold, dry, cold, wet kind of feel to the ground there. I was at the 2019 final game of the round where they upset the Raiders there, who went on to make a grand final. And I was also more recently at Jared Croker's 300th game where they caused an upset also. So maybe I'm a little bit biased because I have seen 2 upsets live here. And the Raiders are, they're on a 4-game losing streak now. And I just feel what we're starting to see from the Raiders is kind of what we all thought might happen earlier in the season. I could be wrong with that because they have been very unlucky with some injuries. But where they're at now, I expect them to not finish the year so strongly and kind of finish around that bottom bunch where we thought they could be. Now, they do have Jamal Fogarty back. That is a massive inclusion. But I am going to tip that it'll take him at least 1 or 2 games to get back to his standard, get that confidence back, blow the cobwebs out. This is a major injury where he's been out for the past 10-plus weeks. It's a big chunk of the season to miss and a lot of match fitness out the window as well. Now, the Warriors aren't having their strongest year. That's not up for debate, but they still average higher completions. They've got better defense. They score more points, and they concede less points than the Raiders on average. So I do think that the Warriors will win here. I think they're going to hand the Raiders their 5th consecutive loss at home, unfortunately, for Canberra fans. But my tip is Warriors head-to-head.
I see what you mean. Apologies, guys. And I know we've had connection issues. I think we've remedied those. From my vantage point, the kind of virtual studio, the comments looked fine. So I didn't really realize it was an issue in all places ongoing, but I've kind of had a quick check. So we'll try and look at it. I think it could be an issue through the platform that we're streaming on, which we will obviously try and fix. I'll just read out, any poignant comments as best I can. I don't know if I'll even put them on the screen since they are getting cut off, but I do apologize. I appreciate everyone that sits through these with us. And invariably there's difficulties that we're always facing.
Yeah, thank you to everyone that let us know there on Facebook and YouTube. Absolutely appreciate it. And don't forget that Raiders-Warriors game's Friday Night Footy, which also means an exclusive Better Same-Game multi crafted by Winnie himself. Better also provides further NRL talk and tips in the Fox Sports Lab, which you can check out on their YouTube channel each Wednesday. And always importantly, think, is this a bet you really want to place? For free and confidential advice, call the number or visit the website in the show description. All right, our next game, Winnie, is Saturday, 3 p.m. Rabbitohs v Tigers at Gosford. This line has moved around a lot, but at the moment it sits at -9.5 against the Rabbitohs. Cameron Murray is named, but he has taken the early guilty plea, so he's out for 2 weeks, and Jai Arrow is out as well. For the Tigers, Api Coruscant's out, so Talon De Silva moves to hooker. Alex Twal returns on the bench, as does highly touted Latu Fayenu. These sides meet for the first time in 2024, Winnie. They haven't played this year. They played twice last year. Rabbitohs went 2-0. How do you see this one playing out? You're pretty confident the Tigers can put up at least a fight?
Yes, I'd say. And I would say I could see a fair bit of scoring. I definitely considered a Tigers team total over. But I think it goes hand in hand. If the Tigers aren't scoring, the Rabbitohs probably will be. And because I don't think either of these teams is going to apply a great deal in defence. But I will just talk about why I think the Rabbitohs won't have it all their own way. And one part of it is getting another blow. Like this Rabbitohs team that kind of had real belief. You lose Latrell, okay, but we can manage the period without him. Well, not going so well so far because they lose the very next game, though Latrell wouldn't have been there either way. But the Finns loss hurts, especially when you score the same number of tries. Now Murray is suspended from the bench for the Blues, and he's out for a couple of games. Arrow was playing through a shoulder injury and really just playing through the pain for the team. Now succumbs, needs the surgery. The only good thing I can say for the Rabbitohs this week is that they're playing West. And as I said on the recap, I'm a bit frustrated with West because they rolled our best bet 4 weeks ago when I took the Titans laying a very low line at Leichhardt, and the Titans dominated the game for 60 but lost. And now we see true West reveal themselves being blown out 3 straight weeks. At least we've been against West for a couple of best bets in the last 3. And now I think it may actually be the time to jump back on. Of course, Coruscant's a massive loss, understandably, but the market has surely caught up to West's inadequacies. They're bottom of the ladder, and they're not getting near the line recently, and there haven't been any fun to back. I'll look at Souths. That was a team that I was backing week in and week out, and I obviously pushed it one too far against the Finns last week, though, it had a chance. But that's a team that was riding a wave, and did they crash into a dolphin? And now, can they pick themselves up again, Souths, or will there be some struggles? It's a neutral venue. It's a low-stakes game, realistically, so I could see plenty of points and positive footy. And you're going to look at Souths with a Pocket Rocket Gray, your halves, Walker Whiten, your pack, key positions, Cook, Kalamatangi. Plenty of points in Souths, I understand. But I look at the Tigers with Bullard, Dwayne, Galvin, Caesar, playing without fear and can put up some points too. So if you just have no faith in West defence, you might play Tigers over 18.5. But I suppose after being flogged so many weeks, I think Benji will challenge his boys here, and I'll take that double-digit start.
I like it, mate. Here's how I saw this one originally. I went and looked at the Tigers' heavy loss to the Roosters. And I looked at how they rebounded against the Melbourne Storm, who were first at that stage. And I thought, they put 28 points on the Storm. That's pretty good effort, right? And, of course, they just got smashed by the Sharkies. So then I started to think, well, if they've shown us they can bounce back 1 week later, that they could do it again here. And then it kind of dawned on me that Api Coruscant's not there. And even though I don't hold the Bunnies anywhere near the regard of the Roosters or the Storm this season, even when the Rabbitohs were in their 5-game win streak, I didn't have them anywhere near that level. But just not Api Coruscant, for me, it's horrible. He just is everything to this side. He's the experience that ties their spine together. He's the chief playmaker around the ruck. He dictates for this team. Young Galvin runs and Caesar runs the kicking game. That's really how I see it. I look at the Rabbitohs as well this year, and particularly on that 5-game winning streak. They are a confidence-based side, right? And when their confidence is high, they are throwing the footy around. They are attacking really well. And it is Damien Cook's 200th NRL game, and that'll be his final milestone at this club. So I do expect them to make a bit of a big deal out of it and really get their motivation and confidence from that and play off the back of it. And I think they'll be up for this game. Additionally, they have won 7 of their past 8 against the Tigers, and the Tigers have not won in Gosford in over 13 years. But it was tough for me here. I don't quite like the Rabbitohs enough to justify that line, but I just can't trust the Tigers enough either. If I was to play this game, Winnie, I'd probably do something a little bit fun. I'd go, Rabbitohs -5.5 and maybe Gagai and Johnston for try scorers because they are playing both sides of the field. I think both had 5 tries between them in the last game there. And I do expect there to be points in this game. So I'd probably just be looking at something like the Rabbitohs and trying to find some try scorers there because I don't have too strong of a lean either way at that line.
Ryan comments he likes the under with Rabbitohs no goal kickers, as we know from last week. And I've seen it coming a few weeks. Still took them, but it was worse than even I anticipated. And Tigers to respond after letting in 50 last game. If Appy's out, helps under. I can see that, but I would also say, Ryan, good luck. I mean, it's Saturday Arvo. This time of the year with 2 teams that probably aren't playing finals footy, you just don't see the same level of desperation in these type of games, and you can see some tries can be run in quick succession sometimes. That's why I wouldn't play the under, but I appreciate that kind of contrary point of view. And we've got another point of view that we can share because McCool's going to come to us with his favorite try scorer value for the week, and it's in this game.
Hey everyone, hope you guys enjoyed the Origin side. Look, whoever you support, it was an absolute cracking game, and well done to the Blues. Moving on to the round of NRL, guys. Round 20, so only 8 rounds to go before the NRL finals. I found a good one here. Kalamatangi, $4.50 on 365. They're up against the Tigers. We all know that Cam Murray's now out for a couple of weeks. Kalamatangi has been named at lock, and Murray was named on the edge. There is a chance that Jacob Host goes in from the reserves onto the edge, but I reckon Koloa Motangi, he's actively said that he wants to play on an edge. He should get at least part of the game there. And if not, I still like the $4.50. He's up against Tigers, with no Appy. Should be a really good game, and that $4.50 could be really, really juicy. If he does get some time on the edge, clearly the best price in the market at the moment on 365. Punt responsibly, as always. Enjoy the weekend. Google Wiki Linktree. Our Discord is just about to hit 5,000 people, and all the free content, odds comparison tool, and everything else will be up and ready to go real soon for round 20. Enjoy.
Great stuff there from Nicole. I was watching the Origin with a friend in real life that doesn't watch our show, or he's just a casual punter, and I showed him Nicole's punters preview for the Origin, and he loved looking through and seeing it all there. Showing the odds comparison tool, he loved it. So if you are not familiar with Wiki, definitely check it out. It's awesome stuff there.
You have real life friends?
Well,
you're not working hard enough, mate. My only friends is people in the pod. Other than that, I don't leave the house enough.
Mate, the pod sticks together. We know that. That's for certain. Game 3, mate. Saturday, 5:30 p.m. We've got Knights v Broncos at McDonald Jones Stadium. This line is now -1.5 against the Broncos. It was -3.5 when I did my notes, and I've really struggled to get my notes. Crackers game winning just because of the uncertainties for both sides. For the Knights, their Origin reps are named, but we don't know. Brabham Best, I would say, would be the most, and probably Taylor Ponga because returning from that foot injury. For the Broncos, their Origin reps and Adam Reynolds are named on the extended bench, so they could return. We don't know. Tough game to break down, Winnie. They meet for the first time of 2024. Both sides well below where they were at in 2023 when they were at their best. They did meet once last year. Broncos won that 24-20. It was a relatively tight game. How do you see this encounter playing out between these sides?
Oh, yeah. The Knights could have beat Brisbane. I think it was a Reynolds try late in the game. Brisbane needed to win that one. Brisbane came second on the ladder last year. If they played their starters in the final game, would have won the minor premiership, and this year come in 13th, as you said, and the Knights actually finished with a wet sail in 5th, but come in 10th. However, both teams still believe they could make noise, and there is still enough time that nobody's season is over yet. I've looked at the Brisbane draw, and in the next 5, they're all winnable games for Brisbane. I think Brisbane wins at least 3 and could win 4 of the next 5, which basically means we don't know if Brisbane will need 5 or 6 wins at the end, but I basically can foresee Brisbane going into a round 25 bye, knowing that they must beat the Finns and the Storm to make the finals. And you might just write Brisbane off right then and there and say, well, they won't beat them both. But Brisbane can beat the Dolphins in a Battle of Brisbane. And in round 27, the Storm, who are currently 4 points clear top of the ladder, could rest everyone. We've seen it happen. So there's definitely still a path for Brisbane, and the calm, experienced head of Reynolds comes back. And while we don't know who's going to be able to back up from Origin, from what I've heard, Reynolds has trained well, and he'd be the most likely of the players in the reserves, not Origin, but of the key players in the reserves that could be back. Is he back in time to save Brisbane's season? That could depend on the result of this game. They really could have used him. Brisbane really could have used Reynolds last week, that's for sure. As for this quartet of players, what are we thinking? I'd highly doubt Walsh, just the way he looked, how bad he was. Carrigan, I believe, was seen in a moon boot. Cobbo's dealt with some injuries this season, as has Haas. Kevy did say the decisions will be made based on science, not desperation. But certainly Brisbane haven't got the luxury to rest anybody. And as for the Knights, I wouldn't be surprised if Best missed the game, needing those stitches. Gagai is that bit older. Surely Ponga plays, although I guess you're saying coming back off a serious injury, you can't take that for granted. So it's a very tough one to read. I won't play Brisbane. I knew I couldn't play the Broncos because I thought last week was the all-in, and I was very disappointed with the defence that gave up 30 points to a Dragon side with no Hunt or Lomax. However, it is hard to quantify what the boost could be from Reynolds, as I said, the leadership, but also the way that he can make others around him better. So let me lean to Newcastle at home, you can still find 2.5. That would be a lean, but a reluctant pass.
Yeah, this is a tough one, man. If I had to give a guess on all the Origin players, let me say Kalen Ponga. I'm leaning towards no, just because they do have Fletcher Sharp, who's proven a capable backup there, as well as David Armstrong in reserve grade. I'm going to say Dane Gagai. Yes,
Ponga
I'd
only
lean.
played 20 minutes. Like, that would be the counter argument too.
Yeah, I just don't think you risk him still winning. It's a serious foot injury. Like, and I think if Fletcher Sharp wasn't available for this one or David Armstrong, I'd say Ponga needs to play. But I think because they have those two handy replacements, they can almost just not even take any sort of gamble and just get through scot-free. But I hear your point as well.
And how bad the Knights looked last week with all these stars out. They really missed them. So that's more reason to rush them back in, because you don't really have the faith the boys will get it done without them.
Yeah, that's actually my first note, how bad they looked last week. Bradman Best, I'm going to lean to no for the same reason you said. Reece Walsh, I heard he had ice on his calf, hip, quad, and he was carrying a shoulder injury in the shed, so I'm going to lean to no. Pat Garrigan left the ground in a moon boot. I would lean to no. Payne Haas, I would lean to yes. And Selwyn Cobb, I would lean to yes as well, I think. But that's why I can't really give a tip for this game winning. I just don't know what the lineup's going to look like as we currently preview it now. But what we know now, what I can preview for you guys is that the Knights are in a bad spot. And that bad spot didn't start last round for me. It started the week before against the Raiders in the second half at GIO Stadium, where, yes, we were on the -3.5 for a best bet, but I was there live. And if Xavier Savage puts that ball down and doesn't knock it on, we lose that bet. And the Knights were very bad in that second half. That form carried into the Manly game, absolutely. Looking at their season snapshot so far for the Knights, typically they have bounced back from poor performances pretty well, and they've at least come back with somewhat of a solid showing. They haven't always won when trying to bounce back, but they have done a solid showing. Meanwhile, the Broncos, they're now riding a 6-game losing streak. So, like, when we talk about a side that's desperate, and we're talking about last year's grand finalists, like, this is backs to the wall. I feel like we've said it the last 3 weeks, and it has been backs to the wall, but it hasn't been, back through the wall, basically. That's where they're at now, man. But as this game currently stands, I did like the Knights +4.5. That line's now gone. Adam Reynolds could still come in. That would sway this line again. I think it's just a wait and see approach rather for this game. What I can tell you guys is the Knights are 2 from 9 in recent games against the Broncos at McDonald Jones. The Broncos have won their past 4 games in a row over the Knights. So I can see why the Broncos are favourites from the stats lens, but I just can't add too much further, Winnie, without knowing how these sides will line up on game day. So for that reason, no tip for me. If I do have a bet on this one, I'm going to wait and see. Alrighty, next game, mate. Saturday, 7:35 p.m. Let's go. Storm v Roosters at Amy Park. Line is set at -2.5 against the Roosters, who welcome back Joseph Suoli'i. Victor Radley is back. JWH is out, so Terrell May starts, and their origin reps are named. For the Storm, they've named Harry Grant, and Nick Maney is back in the centres there. I love this game, Winnie. Like, this here has origin vibes to it, because these are the two powerhouse teams of this competition, really going back, in the 2010s into this decade as well. This has game of the round written all over for it. I cannot wait. They did meet earlier this year. In that game, the Roosters were missing Sam Walker. This time, the Storm are missing their key half in Cameron Munster. Storm won last time by 6. Who do you have winning this time? You like the Storm again?
It's that close. I could have gone Melbourne +2.5. It's pretty much 2.5 everywhere. I've instead gone Roosters under 24.5, and definitely the Roosters could win this game and stay under that team total. Totally agree with you. It's a beauty. It's first, third, and it's the 2 best attacking teams in the comp by a decent margin, and that's crazy when you consider who's been out for Melbourne and who remains out as well. And the Storm haven't lost since May. And I looked at the calendar, and I could have almost said the same about the Roosters, but they had a 2nd of June defeat to the Cowboys. Otherwise, since then, the Tricolours have also won 4 in a row, and the Roosters have been winning emphatically as well by over 20 points a game, which is why the Roosters are favourites in Melbourne. Now, I am going to assume that Harry Grant can play because he got through a hell of a fitness test on Wednesday. You see some of the tackles he had to make with the likes of Leniu going straight at him, but sternum injuries could be complicated. So I'm taking a little risk there. I suppose I feel a Roosters team total may not be as sensitive as a Storm line if I take Melbourne +2.5 and then Grant was to be out. Suoli'i is going to strengthen the centres for the Chooks, so that's not great news for me. But I am looking at, Angus Crichton, the physical brand that he did play throughout that series. Could he get a rest, Robbo? Similar for Lindsay Collins, his style of play. Lenu and Watson did play less minutes off the bench. They probably back up. It's funny because I've been saying, I've been backing the Roosters a little bit, and I don't think anyone's higher on them than I am. And I talked about that loss to the Cowboys and then coming in off the bye and really having urgency, and the Roosters being a team you don't want to get in front of. But I feel like now that the Roosters have actually won a few games and other teams have slid, it's almost like the Roosters are pretty comfortably in the 4. And I don't know if this is an absolute desperation spot and if you do need to back up a couple of your key players, or if you've got enough squad depth that you can go to Melbourne and you can tussle with them and still believe you could win this without Angus Crichton and Lindsay Collins, for example. So I think there's a little bit of upside taking Melbourne, that this game may not be the be-all, end-all for the Roosters, but I guess a team like the Chooks is going to be up for the challenge of trying to end that Storm supremacy at home. And it's a good opportunity when I guess there's no Cam Munster, but since Pappenhausen's come back and Farlongo on the bench and the form of Hughes, and I can't wait for that halfback matchup like Hughes versus Walker could be decisive and should be exceptional. In fact, so should Grant versus Smith, the old buddies and teammates. Pappenhausen versus Teddy. This is the game of the round, both off a bye, so should be pretty fresh. And that ultimately leads me to think that the defenses will be switched on and well prepared for the fireworks that each other is going to face. And I do think generally these rivals create tight games. I mean, let's not forget, this is the scene of the wild week 2 finals game last year, which was only decided by a leaping Warbrick snatching victory in the 78th minute to send the Roosters out of the comp in 2023.
Yeah, that was an incredible game there. I look at this game winning. I think the Roosters will be right up for this. Now, this is a side that really their last down spot, you would say, was against the Cowboys. And since that point, they've rebounded and been really consistent. And more times than not this season, they have risen to the challenge there. So I'm confident they will do that again here. Now, Storm are higher on the ladder than them, sitting in first place, but they don't score as many points as the Roosters, and they concede more points on average than the Roosters. So I think that's why the Roosters are favourites here. But the Roosters really do struggle at Amy Park. The Storm have only lost one game there this year. That was to the Sharks. It was a stinker and one they shouldn't have lost. When you go to these two sides at this venue of recent games, Storm have won 9 of the last 10. The Roosters only managed to beat them at Amy Park once in like the last 5 years or something. But I do love the Roosters' form this year, particularly in that last 3 or so game stretch. In their last 4 games, they're actually averaging 34 points, which is really deadly. But you would know, Winnie, I have this rule in life where ever since I predicted the Storm to fall down when Billy Slater retired, because I said Cameron Smith can play halfback and hooker a little bit, so they didn't notice Cooper Cronk losing as much. But I said now Billy Slater's gone, they won't be in the top 4 this year. They were still in the top 4 comfortably. And from that point, I've just never, ever overlook them, mate, because they just find a way, right? So when I go to this one, because I like the Roosters so much, but I don't want to go against the Storm, I was looking either side 1 to 12. Ryan did confirm for me that that's only $1.70 either side 1 to 12. Can you think of any other ways to play that to get that up around the $1.80 mark? Like, would a 1 to 10 be a possibility?
Yeah, 1 to 10s absolutely. Or if you're playing same gamer, then you can say, if I think it's tight, do I take like a increased total under? So this total's 46.5, I think. So you could go like either team 1 to 12 and under 60.5 points, and that $1.05 total play bumps the overall. If that's the way you're looking at it, I actually considered that too, like an either team. And what I thought about was, well, Roosters, when they're absolutely on, can beat teams 13 plus. And then there's also the possibility that the Roosters don't see this as an all-in game and a couple of guys sit out, and then the Storm could win 13 plus. So I felt like there was more variance in that as well. But actually what I felt more strongly in is no excuse for Melbourne not to show up and fight to the death. So that's why I played Roosters total under. Nice
way to play it either way there. Game 5, mates, it's Sunday, 2 p.m. It's Panthers v Dolphins at Bluebet Stadium in Penrith. Line is set at -11.5, -12.5 against the Panthers. It keeps shifting while we were preparing for the show. For the Panthers, Nathan Cleary is in. Isaiah Yeo and Dylan Edwards are out. Jerome Luai, Brian To'o, and Liam Martin are TBC. For the Dolphins, Hammer and Kafusi are named, but to be seen, and Trey Fuller is named from the bench there. So he'd go to fullback if Hammer doesn't play, of course. These sides have only met once before, Winnie, and the Panthers won that last year. It was 24-14 up at Redcliffe. So by this same line, the Dolphins would have covered in that game. Now, they now play for the first time ever in Penrith. And this is a market, Winnie, where I like your better first half a lot. They're getting a +6.5 line, but I also think the Finns could compete for the full 80 because they've really shown this year, particularly in their last 5, they are prepared to fight tooth and nail. But you do prefer the Dolphins with a first half play in this one.
And especially the Dolphins have had some strong starts. And I think of that game down in Cronulla where they're up 22-0. This is a tough one. I mean, it is a bit similar to when the Cowboys went to Penrith and we didn't know, who'd back up, who wouldn't for the Panthers, because I think it was directly after an Origin game. And the Cowboys actually got the upset there. And I'm well aware that Penrith doesn't lose much at home, and Cleary, who has, would have left no stone unturned with his hamstring, will come back and probably hit the ground running. And I guess there is a little fear to me that if Bennett is thinking this is a bonus game, if we can win this, we don't have to and we don't expect to, in all honesty, then could you rest Hammer and Kafusi and kind of think, let's save them up for games that are more so in the balance? Hopefully that's not the case. I'm also looking at Penrith, who just, because they are so deep and they keep being able to win, Ivan loves to just not put the extra miles on his best players through this period of the season, and talks about how it's a emotional break that they need as much as a physical one. So we already know Edwards has got the knee injury. Yo was just scheduled to not play. Like he wasn't named on Tuesday. The question mark is Luai, To'o, Martin. I hope they don't play, but I definitely think there's a real chance they could be withdrawn, and that would be massive for this best bet. It's not going to guarantee it, though, because Penrith's formidable at home regardless. Because of the higher variance, I'm going to give the same advice I did that week when Penrith played North Queensland, which is have a little bit on the underdog outright, which actually paid at over $4 with the Cowboys that week. And if Penrith rests everybody and says, like, kind of, Cleary will let you go in with the, I would not even call them the B team, but the 1B, the missing a couple of the absolute elite. Let Cleary come in and get one game with them, and then bring everyone back full strength a week later. That would be fine by me. And obviously the head-to-head price would come in on the Finns. So I just think getting 12.5 is generally a team that may give up, that can't hang. And I think the Dolphins have kind of proven, and getting a good win against Souths, the Finns have proven that they're a borderline finals team. And as I explained at the top, I like the first half line because I think we'll learn a lot about the matchup and how close it's going to be based on the early exchanges. And again, when you play against Penrith, Cleary will kill you with 1,000 cuts and he'll kick you to death and they'll wear you out, and they will be patient and they know they can break you and open you up with 20 to go. And that, while I'm a Finns fan, that would be okay with me if we did cover the first half line.
Yeah, I was just double checking there while you were talking too. They are carrying Trent Talau on the bench, who can play hooker and 5'8". So even a chance that they bring Cleary off early in this one, which would help where I'm leaning with this one, mate, which I'll just read out straight away. I'm thinking Dolphins at the line, and that's just overall with both halves. And it's not that I don't like your bet. I do like your bet as well. I just look at this Dolphins side, and I think they are competing for the full 80 minutes. There is a chance Nathan Cleary doesn't goal kick as to not, push that hamstring too much. That's a little bit in our favour as well, because Osako is a great goal kicker. But honestly, the biggest thing, Winnie, is we're always, quick to look at other teams and how good and how impressive they've been this year. And in that, we can sometimes dismiss how good the Panthers are on form, and particularly at defense and particularly at Bluebet Stadium. Now, they are only conceding 15 points per game on average. That's insane. Just over 2 converted tries per game over a whole season, still with all the injuries they've had. But the Dolphins average 25 points. So if we middle that out, we arrive somewhere around 20, right? And with a line of 12.5, I'm actually confident the Dolphins get 1 or 2 on the board, in the first half and have a little bit of belief going on that second half. This will be a game where they play it out and compete for the full 80 minutes there. Another thing is, we know how tough it is at Bluebet Stadium, right? We know it as footy fans. The Dolphins don't. They've never actually played there before. This is their first time as a team there, so they won't be per se intimidated by Bluebet Stadium, I don't believe, which I think is another thing in their favour. I do like the look of Casey McLean as well at left centre here for the Panthers. You look at someone like Isaac Tungo, as soon as Nathan Cleary went out, his form's really struggled. Cleary does get his centres into some really nice spots and some nice lines. I had a look at the Dolphins' last 5 games. They've conceded 8 tries in those 5 games down that left edge. And I just think Cleary is just enough threat to put him through. I went through and had a look, and this is all depending on the price as well, Winnie. If this price is low, then I wouldn't touch it. You need to find the right price for this. He has played 7 games of New South Wales Cup this year, predominantly in the centres as well, and he hasn't scored. He's a really great young player, man. He's just too quality to keep that dry spell up. So if there is some value about him and people can find a good price for him for a try scorer, I reckon Cleary could put him through for a try there. But for my straight tip on this one, I'm going to say Dolphins at the line. And I was really close to making that Clarkey's collect as well, man.
Well, my tip would be jump on, it's Wiki. How do you find it? I just type in Wiki and my browser remembers it.
And find the odds comparison tool. Go to that
the odds
game.
Comparison tool is going to be the go, right? You check this game and you check McLean and you're going to see all the bookies there. And if anybody's outlying a little bit, could be a nice single or a building block for a same gamer.
Yeah, I don't know if this is good punting advice or not, so pull me up on it if it is a bad one. But what I did when Bronson Cherry debuted for the Sharks a number of years ago, every game I would just bet like 100 and kind of just keep increasing that until he scored. And I think he scored like 5 or 6 games into his career, and I cashed a pretty solid amount because I knew like he's too talented to not score.
The Martingale system, which is basically double your bet until it hits, which I probably wouldn't advise just because you can get extreme runs where you don't win, and you get to a point where if you were to double your stake, you don't actually have double remaining to cover should that loss. So gamble responsibly.
Gamble responsibly. Do not take that advice from me. But I will say I'll never forget Bronson Cherry's first try because I did the Martin someone system because I was ill-advised and I wasn't watching the TryPod at that point. That's why. All righty, next game.
You pop your cherry.
Yeah, pretty much actually. Game 6, mate. Sunday, 4 p.m. Manly v Titans. We're at 4 Pines Park, Brookvale Oval. Line is set at -6.5 against Manly. It was 7.5 yesterday, and that was before the news came out that Hamoli Olukwatu is facing a 2-game suspension. So he's named for now, but I don't think he'll take it to the judiciary. Expect him to be out. Ben Travojevic returns. Both Origin captains are named, but of course TBC. For the Titans, AJ Brimson is 18th man at this stage. He could come in. Keanu Kinney's at fullback and Mweki Fotuaika is named to back up. I'm excited for this one, man. Not just because I'm a Titans fan, but because it is Des Hasler's first game back at Brookvale Oval since being sacked by the club. I think this will be a really fiery encounter between these two sides. Do you have a lean or any way you see this one going in particular?
I find it hard to judge because of that factor. I mean, you got the Titans are riding high, very capable of kind of being this spoiler team at this point in the season. You're going to rue that bad start, and a couple of games that the Titans were right there and should have won. I always talk about the Canberra loss, and if the Titans had a couple more wins on the board, they'd still be in this hunt. But at this point, they're just probably trying to build for positive improvement, which they have shown. Manly was back to their best on Sunday with Turbo returning. Now he's been back a couple of weeks and playing fullback. The Hamole suspension does really hurt. Of course, DCE and a jubilant Gerbo coming back into your team at Brookie, you'd have to think that Manly, who also get back Paseka, understand at this point in the season it's go time. After a slow start, Manly are now in the 8 and definitely feel they belong there and want to stay there. I mean, you tell me, is there a major advantage to the Titans because Desi knows the strengths and weaknesses of the Manly players, or is there a case of the Seagulls really get up for this one because it's Desi and therefore there's no danger of an ambush of the Titans coming in and pinching this one? I could see either extreme where I think the Titans have a chance to win, but Manly could win big as well.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but so one thing I know about Des Hasler is he prepares meticulously, or however you say that word. What I've been told by people who work at the Titans is he rocks up at like 6 a.m. in the morning and leaves at like 7 p.m. He's one of the first ones in and the last ones out. And he's doing work the whole time, studying, talking to people, preparing. So he literally is the mad scientist. I think one of the big question marks here will be more so around the origin players for Manly. Now, they already lose Hamoli Olakau'atu, which as a Titans, we're extremely lucky. We lost someone outside of the starting 17 to a suspension, origin first as well, but more so DC and Jake Trbojevic. I would expect Jake Trbojevic to be fine to back up, didn't play many minutes like we spoke about, but DC did have the bruise under his eye and did seem pretty beat up and dejected at the press conference there, so wait and see there. I honestly think the Titans will be up for this though, mate, because you look at the Manly strength against the Knights last game. It was their back line, right? And that's what made them so electric. The Titans have a really underrated back line. Phil Sammy, Brian Kelly, both of our wingers are powerful and consistent as well. And I think we can match it with Manly in that regard. I do hope AJ Brimson comes back in some capacity. He's a great player and he always plays great there against the Seagulls. In terms of form at this venue, the Titans have won 6 of their last 8. And they also won last year at this venue and no one expected them to, Winnie. Just 1 week prior to that, you and I sat in the stands. You stuck a camera in my face as we watched an incredible comeback by the Dolphins. So, we have rebounded here and we've won under tough conditions here. All things considered in this one, I completely respect where this market is at and I can see why people do prefer Manly. But I just think the Titans will be up for it for Desi Hasler. I really do. They've had a few down spots this year. I really hope this isn't one. But I do think they can get up for this and do this for their coach with a siege mentality of, we simply must do this for our coach, and to a smaller extent, Kieran Foran, but more so, of course, Desi Hasler there. I really want to see Dave Fafita rip in as well here, mate. Like the last few weeks in particular, the last 2 weeks, he hasn't been his best against the Eels and the Sharkies. And I just wonder if the Origin talk got into his head a little bit. And I do feel that now Origin's done and dusted. It's nothing to worry about. We know the result. It's all good. I feel like Dave can come out now, hopefully, and really get back to his best form. And if he does that, I do believe the Titans can win here. But to be safe, my tip here will be Titans at the line. And I will put that forward as Clarkey's collect this week, guys. So it'll be Titans plus 6.5 on Top Sport for Clarkey's collect. The Titans' well has been really plentiful this year. They have covered a lot of lines. I'm going back there. Hopefully, it's not the final forbidden sip, but I will believe in my team. As I did last round, I just got a bit greedy and threw in the try scorer as well. But I'm going back there, Winnie. I was very close to Dolphins at the line, but I'm going to go with my own boys. What do you think about my Clarkey's collect this round?
Yeah, I'm surprised of all the teams you got on your own team. And to be fair, I don't even think you've picked your team the best this year. They've won a few times when we haven't seen it coming, and then they've disappointed us other times. Like, again, it hasn't really made sense to me. You and I both felt really confidently that the Titans would smoke the Tigers and they blow that game. But then a week later, they're beating New Zealand by 60 and they're beating the Cronulla away and stuff. So it's hard, but I could definitely see the reasoning to give them a chance and to be optimistic. And I actually have felt a little bit for Fafita because nobody could understand the Origin omission. So the Queensland selectors and Billy Slater kept getting pushed and pushed to answer for it. And because they got asked so many questions, they felt the need to keep giving more answers. So they're like, the selection team has come out and clarified further that Fafita's lazy and misses tackles and makes mistakes. It's like a little bit of a character assassination on Fafita. He didn't do anything wrong other than not get picked for Origin. He's still a great player that can be a difference maker and that you'll want to see at his best. And you'd have caught a little break, you being the Titans, that you don't face one of the other most damaging back rowers in the comp who was also omitted from an Origin team. That's definitely a win. And if you're telling me like the line only moved a point, I actually think Olakau'atu being suspended should move this through a key number. So I can definitely see a good case for the Titans with the line there.
100%. And if I'm saying it wrong, you guys know I'll be here on the recap show to put my hand up and say I was saying it wrong. But so far, Clarkey's collect's doing not too bad, plus 10.5 units. So we're ahead, which is awesome for my really my kind of debut proper having stuff tracked on the show. All right, mate, let's go to the final game. We're at 1 hour and 15. We'll try to get out of here before 1 hour and 30. Sunday, 15 past 6 p.m. Cowboys v Bulldogs. Queensland Country Bank Stadium in Townsville is our venue, and the line is set at -2.5 against the Cowboys, who have all their Origin reps listed on the extended bench. TBC for all. For the doggies, they'll be without Max King. So Pawasa Masili comes in. Jacob Preston is back, and Matt Burton is named as well. Winnie, the Cowboys have actually won 1 of their last 5 games at home here. So, when we preview these games, typically we do look at Townsville and go, it's a big advantage because of the heat difference, and it's a fortress for the Cowboys, but it hasn't been of recent. Do you think they can turn that around here, or would you prefer the doggies?
I'll just say I reckon we get out of here in under 80 minutes, which is a long pod. I did dedicate 30 to Origin, and Origin is what makes this game tricky for me. I would have actually played the Cowboys, and I believe they should be a favourite if I knew everyone was backing up. And while it's an important game for the Cows, who sit 8th, and of course the Dogs have had a sensational season, currently 5th, the thing is, it was just such a grueling contest, and basically every Cowboy played big minutes, if not the full game as well on Wednesday. So it's not necessarily a matter of who wants to back up. It's just the likelihood is 1 or 2 could be carrying something we wouldn't know about. And I resisted playing North Queensland tonight and then finding out 1 or 2 important players aren't going to be able to suit up on Sunday. But all 5 of the Cowboys reps, because of course Taulungi's injured, are in the extended bench, so all could possibly play. The Cowboys have been burning for 2 weeks off an extra time home loss, one of many games at home the Cowboys have blown that they will feel they should have taken care of. This is another one that will fall in that category. I don't know if it was the last time the Cowboys played the Dogs, but I do definitely remember Golden Point between these two. Was that last year as well? And it was a Burton field goal in Golden Point that got a victory for the Bulldogs. I want to say it was early last year. And of course, the last 2 Dogs games, because Canterbury also had a round 19 bye. So the last 2 times Canterbury have played have ended in Matt Burton field goals. It does feel like it is a special season for the Dogs, although more of these wins have come at home. But it's definitely a year where there's a lot of belief in the Dogs. And when you bet against the Dogs, they don't give you anything easy. They make you earn it. So as opposed to the Cowboys, who have been a little bit more hit and miss this year. So I've ended up passing it. The Dogs get the clearer preparation because they've only got 1 Origin player who is Critter, who is the captain and takes pride in backing up and is a frightening player to go against, and showed that again on Wednesday night. Peyton's saying he's going to make the call on his players later in the week. So I think that call that Peyton makes and who's available to him could go a long way to deciding how this plays out.
And that's where my head's at, Winnie. I mean, I'm just thinking I prefer the Bulldogs. I'll put my cards on the table straight away. And that line can only move against me, right? Because even if Stephen Crichton is ruled out, that's a one of one chance to happen. Whereas the Cowboys, as you said, we've got 5 potential players that could be out, right? And they did play big minutes in Origin. Given it's Sunday, I don't know if the extra days actually helps. The body could be sorer than if it was like Friday or Saturday. But that's the only real uncertainty around this game for me. It's which Cowboys players back up. What I have here perceivably is a more hungry side in the Cowboys to perform at home and keep their season alive versus a more settled Bulldogs side. And this doggy side has conceded 20 points or less in their past 6 straight games. I think that's a really nice stat, man. I think that's really impressive. 12 or less in their past 6 games in a row. Are they due for a down spot? I don't think so, because they have held this level of consistency pretty well across this season so far, particularly as far as their defense is concerned. That being said, where I am a little bit concerned for the full-time result in this game, they have lost 7 of their last 8 away games this year. That even includes 1 game at a core stadium to the Bunnies, which is their home stadium as well. So they have been very bad as the away side, and it's something they need to address. But when I look at this Bulldogs side, they've addressed a lot of issues this year, man. Like, they came into this season with myself and a lot of people thinking they will not be a top 8 side. And slowly but slowly, they've rebuilt and they're putting, the jigsaw puzzle together. So I actually will back them to address this poor run of form away from home. I think that they are aware of it. That'll be the next thing that their coach wants to work on. And I think they'll be extremely laser focused and put in a strong first half here, Winnie. So for that reason, my top in this one is actually plus 0.5 at halftime. So they just can't be losing at halftime, right? It could be a draw, but they just can't be losing. Do you like that one? Do you have any thoughts about that tip?
Yeah, so I mean, this line can go in either directions. Worst case for the Dogs is Crichton can't play. All 5 Origin reps in for North Queensland. Then the line's going to get closer to 6. But there's more chance it can go the other way too if a couple of North Queenslanders are out and more likely Crichton plays and it could creep into pick'em. So I don't think you're going to see that line get to 2.5 by halftime, but it's possible the Dogs could start a favourite in this game as well. So I don't mind that one at all. You've got a team that really wants to play better away, but you also got the team that wants to address home failures. So that's what makes it challenging. But it's cool that we do get Sunday night footy to close out round 20.
Yeah, and of course that does mean, guys, we will be here within 15 minutes of full time on Sunday, but it will be a little bit later because this one won't finish until 8:15ish. So that'll do our show tonight, guys. We'll get out of here. We've been here for a bit longer than usual, but we of course appreciate you all being here with us live, and we look forward to seeing you on Sunday for the recap show as well. Thank you very much, and over to the big man upstairs to say farewell.
Sorry about the comments. I'll look into whether there's something we can fix with that. So I didn't even type up the best bets because I didn't think it would display properly. But once again, Tigers plus 10.5, $1.83 sports bet. Roosters team total under 24.5, $1.80, 365. Dolphins plus 6.5, first half, $1.88. Ladbrokes, Neds, Clarkey likes. Titans plus 6.5, $1.90, Top Sport. And mixed matchup will be out tomorrow. Better same gamer. Remember, I did it $17 same gamer last week. So try and back that one up tomorrow night with better, and Winnie's Kitchen will be released Friday or Saturday as well. So have a good Friday, guys. We'll see you Sunday night, as Clarkey said. We appreciate your company. Let us know in the comments what you think of our plays and what else you like for yourself. Best of luck.